Hey guys, day 10. Today in our Bible reading plan, we're in Genesis 25 through 27 and Psalms 10. If you're falling behind the reading, don't stress it. Just catch back up. And if you're on target, good job. Today, Abraham dies in our reading. And I think it's important to remember as we move past Abraham that God made a promise to Abraham that will not end with the death of Abraham. In fact, the promise is going to go all the way to Jesus Christ. And so remember, the entire Old Testament is meant to point towards Jesus. We're going to see sort of this forward looking, walking by faith now, but also faith in a God who's going to deliver a son for Abraham that would be Christ, who would save us from our sins, the Son of God who would come to the earth to save us. But in the meantime, the story of Abraham continues, and let's get a little chapter on Isaac. Isaac's story I thought was really interesting. First of all, he was a man of prayer. He learned a lot from his father Abraham, and so much can be learned by watching our parents, right? And so Isaac cannot have kids at first, and so his reaction is to pray. I love that in the beginning of Genesis, or in the middle of Genesis 25. And then he has twins, and God speaks to his wife Rebecca about the twins. The promise was that Jacob would be the one who would carry the blessing, even though he was the second born. That has a lot of symbolism in the Bible. The first birth is not the birth that will save us, but it's usually the second birth that saves us. And so just keep that sort of image in mind. I thought some of the things in Genesis 26 were interesting. Here's something that stuck out to me. The Lord appeared to Isaac in a couple of different verses. We see that language in verse 2 and then later on in verse 23. Which I thought was so encouraging, because sometimes we carry the weight of, I need to come to God. I need to read the Bible. I need to be, sort of in charge of my spiritual life. And we forget that there's a God who pursues us. There's a God right now who's drawing our hearts to him. And he did it to Abraham, and he did it to Isaac, and he did it later to Jacob. And he continues to do that to us today. Genesis 27 is crazy. It's the story of the brothers who, of course, Jacob tricks his father into thinking that he's the right brother to get the blessing. Jacob was fighting for what was already his, and he was trying to accomplish in the flesh what God had already promised him by faith. And so many of us get caught up in that. We're going to move into the story of Jacob in the next few days, and I think it's crazy that Jacob ends up suffering and really not suffering, but growing spiritually, because God will commit himself to developing us into the kind of person that we need to be. But it is a hard lesson. In the meantime, his brother Esau makes some bad decisions and marries a woman from the land, as opposed to somebody who believed in the same God as he did. And so we start seeing patterns of living. You either honor God or you don't. What kind of living are you living right now? I love this idea, though, that God uses even difficult relationships to accomplish his purposes and transform us into his likeness. I love that. I love you guys, and I'll catch you again tomorrow.